But sometimes God's intervention is not easy to see. In fact, I would submit to you that there are times when God's intervention is impossible to see. And that's where faith comes in. And that's where Naboth's story comes in. We talked about Naboth last week, but I want to look at it from a different angle this week. God's intervention in Naboth's life, I believe, was impossible for Naboth to see it, which would mean that he would have to have total faith and trust. And sometimes things happen so quickly that you don't have time to not have faith. You just swept along by the events. But you remember what happened? Think about this now from Naboth's perspective. And the story was back in 1 Kings chapter 21. King Ahab all of a sudden coveted his vineyard, and he tried to buy it. He tried to trade for it. And Naboth said, no, it's been in my family for generations. I don't want to sell it to you. Jezebel, Ahab's wife, said, I tell you, I can take care of this problem. And so she wrote letters to the corrupt people in the government and said, I want you to falsely accuse this guy of some things and take him out and stone him. And that's what they did. My question is if we look at this from Naboth's perspective just for a second, what were his thoughts? What was he thinking about God's intervention? I mean, Naboth was totally blindsided. And you remember, here's what happened, 1 Kings 21:13, just a quick review. Then the two worthless men came in and sat before him, and the worthless men testified against him, even against Naboth, before the people, saying, Naboth cursed God and the king. And so they took him outside the city and they stoned him to death with stones. Can you hear Naboth thinking in his mind, God, where are you? Why are you letting this happen? Are you real? Do you care about what I'm going through, about what's happening to me? And I'm thinking that there's no way that Naboth could have comprehended what God was doing, why he was allowing this to happen. While this travesty was going on, I don't think there's any way Naboth could have stopped and said, God is in this. God is doing a great thing. We can only see in part. You remember what Paul wrote? He said, now we only see in part, but then later on we'll be able to see completely.